our AnyRPG Development Livestream. In these videos, I livestream the development of the AnyRPG Engine, a free and open source role-playing game engine designed in Unity and written in C#. If you don't already have a copy of AnyRPG, you can pick one up from anyrpg.org/downloads in both Unity package and source code format. You can also find free copies of the games that I work on at the same page. In this episode, we will be designing a new zone using free assets from the Unity Asset Store. And the free assets that we'll be using are this mountain terrain rock and tree pack, which will be used to fill in some gaps in the main thing we'll use for this zone, which will be the lighting optimization tutorial free pack from Unity Technologies. This will serve as the basic zone. It's nice because it's basically got an outpost pre-built and ready to go, with the exception of we just need to fill in some stuff around the side because it kind of uses a forced perspective scene. For the portals in and out, we'll be using this magic wall to sort of show where on the path you have to walk into to get to the next zone, and this is from the Fantasy Effect pack by Pinwheel Studio. For some extra rocks, because the rocks in the Unity lighting tutorial only have one side on them and become invisible from behind, we'll be using some photoscan mountain rocks and PBR from this free pack by the Tales Factory. We need a dead commander, so we'll be using this little hangman from the Animated Miners with Mine Setting free pack, and there's also a map here as well we'll be using to kick off the next quest. We'll be using as well the Dead Tower Scene free pack by Devtoid, and you can't see it right here, but I'll show you later. There's a nice dead guard in here that we can use as part of this quest chain as well. For the music, we'll be using the Ancient Egyptian Desert Music free pack, and this one is really cool because it's got this song, The Secrets of Thoth, which is a nice creepy background music. And for some extra ground, we'll be using the ground from this dev assets powered by Brackeys, and there's a $0 version of it which contains a lot less assets, but it's still got the ground in it, so we'll be using that as well, and that's from devassets.com/assets/desert-environment. Okay, let's get started. I have imported everything into Unity. The one note that I'd want to make is that the lighting optimization tutorial is its own complete package, so if you want to use it, start up a new project, import it, let it change all the project settings and everything, and then just grab the do an export there, and that'll export it without the project settings, and then you can import it into another project without it trying to overwrite them. So I've already done that, and we now have this thing imported, and I'm gonna call it Light Fury Outpost. And there was 3 scenes with it, and what I just did is just kept the lighting optimization tutorial, or lighting tutorial optimal scene. So here it is, and you can see what I mean about the forced perspective in this level because it's a great little zone. Nice little village, but we've got this problem where these rocks sort of disappear when you look at them from the back, and there's some pretty clear gaps here. So I want my character to leave through here and enter through here, but you can see where there's basically nothing, so we'll be adding in the ground. So first we have to make our own scene for this. So what I'm going to do is, in my project, I have a scenes directory, and I'm going to create a new folder here and call it Light Fury Outpost. We'll take this lighting tutorial optimal scene, Control D to duplicate it, pull it over into the Light Fury Outpost folder, then just rename that to Light Fury Outpost, and we'll double click on it to open it up here. And then now we want to pull in the ground. So I've imported the desert pack into this desert environment from dev assets here, and there's a ground texture here, but we need the actual ground object. So to find that, there should be a scene here. And actually that's a scene that I made. Let's see if I can find the other scene here. There we go. They have a scene called example, so we'll open that up. Okay, so basically if you look inside this scene and just click right here, you'll get this ground object. And what I've just done is just pulled this ground object out and made a prefab out of it. So I'll just go create a new folder here, call it prefab. We'll grab the ground, drag it out into the prefab folder, and now we have a nice prefab of this ground, and we can use that for the ground in our other level. So let's go back to the Light Fury Outpost scene here now. We won't save our changes to this one. And then we'll want to pull in that ground. So I'll go into this prefab directory here and just pull the ground into the scene. Now that's a lot better, but we need to make some adjustments to it. As you can see, it's sort of flooding everything here. So what we'll do is we'll move that downwards basically until it's not poking through the ground anywhere. So right about there looks good. And then we'll just want to basically blend this ground right here and this ground. And since this ground that we just pulled in, the big flat one, can't use terrain tools on it because it's not an actual terrain, that means we'll be moving this one around. But first what I want to do is pull in a bunch of rocks and stuff, because there's a lot of areas where we don't even really have to do any blending. We can just pull in those prefabs from those other packages. So I've already imported this mountain terrain into a folder called Rocky Hill. So under the Rocky Hill folder here, we've got some prefabs, and the one specifically that I want to pull in is this terrain 01 low right here. So let's just pull that into the scene somewhere here. And this is a pretty huge one. It's kind of nice. I like that. So let's, I don't know, pull it over to about here, maybe. What I want to do, actually, let's lower it down a little bit and then pull it over this way. And then maybe a little bit back here. Perfect. Okay, good. So actually, and you know what? Even a little bit more this way, because these, yeah, actually, there we go, that's fine. Perfect. Okay, so now we've got like a nice sort of blend here. I'll throw in some mountain rocks to fix up these one-sided rocks right here, but that's pretty good. And we'll also want to move this black mountain in the background downwards a little bit, because you can see it's sort of hovering above the main ground. So let's just pull that down till it sort of disappears, and maybe we can move it back a little bit more, actually. So now that's a little more out of the way. All right, and I think what I want to do is Control D to duplicate this, and then we'll pull the duplicated one over here, and then let's just spin it around a little bit so that it's a bit of a different angle, and then move it forward until it starts poking through this landscape right here. Okay, good. So now we've got a landscape where there aren't really any holes in it, and since we're looking at this hill from a different side here, there's a little bit of variety. They're kind of similar, too similar, but we'll for this side we'll use some different stuff just to maybe make that look a little like with a little more variety, and that's the mountain rocks from the Mountain Rocks PBR set. So let's go grab those now. Actually, to be honest, I can't remember if I even downloaded those in a Unity. Yeah, actually I do. Okay, so we have rocks, and it's this Mountain Rocks 01 is the right folder, and this is under Photoscan Mountain Rocks PBR. Perfect. So this one's got a demo scene with some nice prefabs in it. So we're just going to save Light Fury Outpost for a minute, and then we can open up this demo scene here, hit F to focus on these, and this shows all the rocks from the Mountain Rocks pack. And there's this demo scene 02, which has this really nice sort of mountain environment put together by joining all the different rocks, basically. So I really like this environment here. So I'd like to make a prefab out of that here. So I think what I'll do is, we've got Light Fury Outpost and we've got the import here. I'm going to make a prefab folder. And I'll pull this environment into that prefab folder here, just to keep this with the scene, and we're just going to call this PBR Rocks. Okay, now we can go back to the Light Fury Outpost. We won't save this scene here, and let's go over to the corner here and pull in some of those PBR rocks over on this side. Wow, that's, oh, okay, that's just looks big because it's showing so close to the camera. Let's move that down a little bit. Actually, that's really nice. Wow, these are pretty huge. Actually, their scale is, I think about like 10 times bigger than everything else. So I think what we should do is scale that down to 0.1, 0.1 maybe, and then pull it over and up. Yeah, I think that's about right. They're sort of the same scale as the rest of the ground and the rocks now. Okay, so let's use those to join basically this edge over here. So we'll pull this down, let's see, rotate it around a little bit, drop it down a little more, pull it over, and actually this black thing here, what we should do is move this down so it's not floating above the rest of the terrain. Okay, and then let's see, this hill right here. We'll want probably a bunch of these, but let's actually move this a little bit closer to make things a little easier here, and then pull it back a bit. Okay, that's good. And then now we've got less land to join there pretty much. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to take a bunch of these PBR rocks here and just sort of duplicate them. Yeah, and let's see, let's just hit delete and get rid of that rock group there. And now we've just got a little bit of stuff to cover up here. So I'm going to take this and we'll actually make a new empty here, create empty, and we'll just call this PBR rock group. I'll pull the PBR rocks into it, hit Control D to duplicate, grab them and bring them up here. To deal with these one-sided rocks over here. Except for now they're sort of floating. So let's actually drag these back and down a little bit. And I'll pull them forward. Let's see if I can find a place where they don't look like they're floating here. Either that, or let's just rotate this whole thing a little bit this way and try moving them in here and up a bit. And then rotate a little more, pull it a little more forward. Okay. Then I think I'm going to duplicate just this rock right here and try to pull it forward and blend it a little bit with these floater rocks, or with these one-sided rocks over here. And then Control D to duplicate again. Okay, now that's not bad. I don't see any one-sided areas here anymore except for this one. So we'll fix this up as well. So to do that, I think I'm actually going to duplicate an entire PBR rocks group here, and we'll pull that over to here. And that is still a little bit floating, so we'll pull that down until it's no longer floating. Alright, that's got part of it, and then I'll want to take, let's see, just this big rock here, Control D to duplicate, spin it around a little bit. Actually, let's spin it around all the way. Oh, that's probably better. Okay, I think I gotta drop him actually a little bit. You know what? I think he's too big. I think we'll just delete that and maybe grab a smaller rock. So just keep clicking here till I find a smaller one. Like that. Perfect. Okay, so we'll take this one right here. Pull it up a little bit here. You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking actually this whole rock group is pretty big. What happens if we delete it? Yeah, we just have a kind of a bad cliff there. So maybe I'll leave that here a little bit. And actually there's another thing that we can do instead for this to deal with this one-sided rock problem, and that's actually just raise the terrain. I think that's actually going to be a lot easier. So to do that, we'll just click on the terrain village here. We'll click on the paint tool, and raise or lower terrain looks good, and we can left click to raise. We'll set the brush size down a little bit, a lot actually. And let's just raise the terrain here until it is sort of poking through the rocks. And that's a little bit too high, so I can shift left click to lower this. And we'll raise up a little bit more again. That's sort of way too high again. Okay. Okay, just keep on little minor clicks until we have something that hopefully looks decent. I think I'm going to do this brush here. That is like way too pokey. You know what I think we can do? Let's just do set terrain height actually. So I'll change that to set height, and then we will shift and left click to set the height, or left click, yeah, shift left click to sample, and then set the height all down to that. There we go, that's a lot better. Okay. And that's actually not quite high enough, so we'll shift left click right about here, which is the height we want. Okay, good, and that's a little better now that the rocks are, or the terrain's sort of poking through the rocks. Okay, and now we want to lower this just a little bit, so raise or lower terrain, and then shift left click to lower this until it's let's do this brush right here. Okay, and then we'll grab like a smaller rock if I can find one. And actually, you know what? Let's take this PBR rocks group over here as well. We'll duplicate it and we'll pull it with the handle. There we go. And we'll pull it over here because we've got some other one-sided rock issues right here as well. Let's raise up the terrain a little bit also. by sort of pulling these into the corner here. See if we can find a place where they don't look like they're floating. And then, actually, you know what? I'm thinking it's probably easiest just to delete that entire rock group and maybe just pull in more PBR rocks. So I'll hit Control D to duplicate that, and then just sort of blend it by pulling this forward a little bit. Spin that around. And then move it back a little bit. Most of those are way too low. Okay. And we have some one-sided rocks right here. Let's just duplicate one of these rocks right here and pull it over. I think I'll want to spin this one around a little bit and then move it downward. And I can't tell, it kind of looks like it's floating still. Yeah, actually we have to move it down till about there, till it's no longer looking like it's floating. And this valley we should fill in as well, so we'll move these over a little bit. And then Control D to duplicate and pull more of them over here. And then Control D to duplicate, and pull more of them over here. And then Control D to duplicate, and pull more of them a little bit more this way. Down a little bit. And there, I think we don't have any more invisible spots or one-sided spots here. We can always, we'll go into the level and test this after. It looks like this is kind of floating a little bit right here. So let's take the terrain and just paint it a little bit here and raise it up a little bit. So we'll just do some minor little left clicks there. Oops. Maybe lower it a bit. And then let's see right here, we've got the terrain is floating a little bit, so let's just lower it. Actually, we need to raise it up a little bit so it's not poking through the rocks. And I think what I'll do is actually, let's just duplicate this rock group here and pull it over here. I don't know if we can do this without getting the floating effect here. if we just unpack that prefab, maybe we can just delete a couple of the rock groups until we get better things not floating. Okay. I think I should try to blend the terrain a little bit here. Okay, so let's take another group of PBR rocks here. We'll just duplicate those, pull them over here, Control D to duplicate, pull them over here, Control D to duplicate, pull them over here. Let's lower, actually, yeah, we need to lower this so it's blending more into the desert. And to do that, we'll want to delete the one-sided rocks from there. Then click on the terrain here, and I think I'll just use this solid brush here. And we'll want to lower that, so shift and left click to lower. Whoops. And I think I want to actually turn the opacity down. And just keep on lowering it till it's sort of poking through there. Actually, you know what? Let's just back that up because I want a more gradual effect. So let's do that. Maybe make the brush a little bit bigger. That's better. Yeah, okay. So we'll just keep lowering all this terrain here till it's no longer floating above the desert. And now it looks like it's blended with this rock group beside it here. And I'll just lower these hills a little bit here so we can see more of these PBR rocks here. And then this blend is okay here. Just looking for any more floating rocks. So we've got some floating rocks here, so let's get rid of those. I'm just going to unpack that prefab. And we can just take that group there and delete it, and actually we don't need that rock either. Okay, these guys are floating a little bit still. So let's move them down. duplicate them, Control D, and then I want to just fill in this entire area back here with rocks. So we'll just keep on duplicating rocks and pulling them over. Okay, I see, yeah, actually there's a little bit of a blend area issue there. So let's go back to the terrain, go back to our terrain painter here, and then just shift left click to lower this until we get a little bit better of a blend. Maybe raise that a little bit. Okay, I think that's okay. I don't see any more super huge floaters. I still need more rocks over here. So let's get out of the terrain tools here. We'll click on this rock right here. And actually this is a nice one, I like it. So I'm going to duplicate that, grab the handle to drag it, and what I want to do is actually we'll spin it around like this, and then we'll pull it through, and then I'll duplicate it, let's see, again, so Control D to duplicate, and then pull it over here a little bit more, and then that way it's kind of blending a little better with these one-sided rocks. And then I'm going to duplicate it again and pull it over here because we've still got some more one-sided rocks over here, it looks like. And I don't want it floating, so I have to pull it a little bit more back there. Okay, and then we'll duplicate that again and pull it over here. And then I'm going to spin it around and then pull it back a little bit more. Okay, and it looks like we've got a fairly solid group of rocks right here. Let's just duplicate that once more and just pull it back so it's more blending with the mountain behind it. And I still see a little bit of a one-sided area here, so I'm going to duplicate that and pull it over and spin it around a little bit more. And I think we've now got these rocks overlaid on top of almost all the one-sided rocks. This one right here is a little bit one-sided, but I think we can just move it down. Maybe. Let's see here. Okay. And actually, okay, let's Control Z to undo that. We'll push it down maybe about that much. And then let's just raise the terrain underneath it a little bit. So back to this terrain painting tool. And just keep on clicking on the terrain till it's raised up to the point where we can't see through any of its sides there. Okay, now let's finish lowering it over here, so just shift left click to lower until it's down underneath the desert floor there, so it's not floating anymore. Actually, I think what I want to do here is let's use the sample height. So on the terrain there, we'll go set height, and then we will shift left click right there to sample. And I don't think that worked. I think it is raising it. Yeah. Let's try that again. So we want to shift left click to sample. Yeah, you can't actually sample it below 0, and technically that's below 0, so that's the problem that I noticed with this before. So we'll just go back to raise or lower, and we'll just shift left click to lower that until we get this thing down into the desert floor there. Just keep on painting that down a little bit here, and then actually let's Control Z, because that's I want a little bit of a bigger brush. We'll have to increase the brush size because I want that to be a more like gradual slope down, and then reduce the brush size a little bit here, and then pull this ground down a little bit until it's more merging with this other terrain. And then we've got a few one-sided rocks there. So let's duplicate a few more of these PBR rock groups here. And just pull them down a little bit. And then Control D to duplicate that. Pull it over a little bit. And then Control D to duplicate that. Pull it up and over a little bit. And then Control D to duplicate that. And then I'll spin this one around a little. Just look and see if we can find any one-sided areas. Okay, and then I like this rock cluster right here, so I'm just going to duplicate it and pull it over. And then duplicate it again, and drop this one down a little bit, and spin it around this way. And then duplicate it again, and drop it down a little more. And we've got a few more little floaty areas right here. So let's just take this one, duplicate it, sort of pull it through a little bit. And then duplicate it again, drop it down a bit, and then pull it over right here. And then duplicate it again, and drop it down right there. look like we still have a little bit of floaty stuff here. What I might just do, let's just try removing this rock wall right here. That's a little bit better. And then I'll take one of these rock formations here. Drop it down a little bit there to make it fill up that hole. And then duplicate it again. And drop it down here. Okay. I don't think I see any more one-sided areas. Oh, we've got a few more right here. So I think actually right here, let's actually just drop the entire terrain a little bit. So we'll go back to the terrain painting brush here, and let's just choose something else like that. That looks okay. And then I'm just going to shift left click to lower this gradually until it sort of disappears into these rocks here mostly. Lower it here a little bit. And we've got a little bit of one-sided rocks right here. So let's just Control D to duplicate this rock formation here and pull it over. Just enough to cover up the back of those one-sided rocks. And then I'll duplicate it again, and I think there's another bit of one-sided rocks right there. So we'll just sort of have it sticking through there. Okay. This looks mostly okay. We've got a little bit of an issue with the blend right there. So let's just click on the terrain here, go back to the terrain painter, and just left click to raise this terrain till it starts to sort of poke through the other rocks there. Okay, that's not bad. If I zoom in here, we can see a few issues. So we'll just pull this terrain up through those rocks. And this group here is floating a little bit. So let's just grab like a single rock out of there, Control D to duplicate it, pull it over, and we'll make sure it's not floating by moving it down there. Okay, that's better. I don't see any more holes in the terrain over here. Okay, here I see an issue. We've still got a few one-sided rocks right there basically. So let's Control D to duplicate this rock right here and drag it up a little bit, and then move it over here. And then I'm going to Control D to duplicate it again. We'll spin it around and then drag it out a little bit. And then let's Control D to duplicate it again, pull this one up, spin spin it around a little more. Drag it back. And actually, you know what? That's not working because now they're actually floating on this side. Let's just delete that. And maybe what I'll do instead is just raise up the terrain a little bit. So click on the terrain again, grab the terrain brush, lower the brush size a little bit here, and then just left click to raise that terrain until it sort of pops through these rocks. To the point where you can't see the one-sided parts of them. So we'll just keep clicking till that comes through there. Okay, that's a lot better. And now these rocks are sort of going down there. Okay, good. I don't see any more holes on the terrain right there. Just keep looking around here. Okay, so we do have some holes right here. So let's just raise the terrain up a little bit. There we go. Okay, this is starting to look pretty good. Looking around, I'm not seeing any more edges poking through. Everything looks like there's no real one-sidedness anywhere. Oh, right here we've got a couple of little floaters. Okay. So let's just grab Control D to duplicate one of these rock clusters here, and then pull it over there, and then just take a look and see. It looks like it might be floating a little bit, so maybe if we pull that down and out like that. And actually I see a little bit more one-sided right there, so I'm just going to duplicate that and pull that over. Okay, and then I'm going to duplicate this and pull it over here. And then again, and a little bit more this way. Okay. And I see something else sort of floating in the air over here. So let's just grab this big rock, duplicate it, pull it over, and then duplicate it again, and pull it over. Okay, that's a little better, and I see a little bit of terrain sort of floating in the air over here. So let's just duplicate this and pull that over. And I see some more floating in the air over here a little bit. So let's grab one of these rock formations here. Oops, Control Z, pull it over this way. Drop it down a little bit till it's putting stuff there. Okay. I think this is going to be okay though, because the player, I don't think we're actually going to let the player walk over here. Although, you know, I may do a little bit more in the future. But for now, this is looking pretty good. We're going to have barriers basically to prevent the player from going out any of those directions. So when the player comes in right here, let's just smooth this ground out a little bit here. So I'm going to click on the terrain, click on the terrain tool here, and then we'll just shift left click to lower this stuff a little bit more, just to give it a little bit more of like a gradual blend in there. We don't quite want it that low there. There we go. And then maybe lower that a little bit. Okay, that's looking pretty good. So now we should make some gates so the player can basically enter and exit the level. He's going to be exiting basically right here. And I think actually maybe we will sort of pull this ground down over here a little bit, because we want this to be a pretty clear exit to the base. And we'll just put the exit across right here pretty much. Okay, that looks good. So let's make the exit now. To do that, we'll close up all the terrain here. Let's save that. And actually, now that we have the terrain pretty much done, we can bake the nav mesh onto it. Though there's going to be no enemies on it for now, but I just actually like to see the nav mesh anyway, so let's just hit bake and bake. Alright, good. That's pretty much what I expected for walkable areas here. Alright, so next up we need to make a way to get to this zone and some background music for it. So let's go do that then. And to do that, we'll need to make a scene node. So we'll look for the scene node folder in the Lost Soul resources here. And I don't think I've created a scene node for this yet, so we can pretty much just duplicate any old scene node. So I'll just duplicate that one right there. Go back to the inspector. This one will be called Light Fury Outpost. Set the name to Light Fury Outpost. And the background music profile for this will be The Secrets of Thoth, I think. Let's just make sure. The Secrets of Thoth. Perfect. And we already have an audio profile that points to this. So this is going to be our background audio profile. This is a really cool sort of creepy thing here. Let's see if we can hear this. Yeah, perfect. So this is like the outpost is completely deserted and there's just like this creepy music in the background here. Okay, so we'll go to the Light Fury Outpost zone here and paste in The Secrets of Thoth. Next thing that we want to do is we want to add a default spawn location So basically the player is going to come in pretty much by the front gate right about here. So I'm going to middle click on the ground right there. I'm going to search for the default spawn location. I'm going to pull it into the scene and then Control Alt F to move it. Just a second, where did that go here? If I put the handle on it, there we go, that's better. Okay, good. So that's the default spawn location and it looks about correct. And let's just unpack that prefab completely. So next we need a way to get here, so we'll have to make a gate to allow us to travel here. So to do that, we're actually going to make the gate in the Sun Temple. So let's go to the Sun Temple. And there's a sort of a bridge on, or I mean like a path on the edge of the city here. And eventually I'm going to put a bridge here, but for now what we can do is just click here and we'll make a new 3D object cube, and then we're going to call this the Light Fury Outpost portal, and we will set the scale on it. So its Y scale is like 10 and its Z scale, that's totally fine, I think. Let's set its X scale to 5. No, how about 7? 8? Yeah, perfect. Okay. That's pretty good. Actually, I think we can set the Y down maybe to like 5 here. Good. So this is what we're going to be walking through to zone out here. So we'll need to add a couple components on it. We'll make sure this box collider is a trigger. We will disable the mesh renderer here, and that magic wall, let's see, magic wall, perfect. This magic wall is the effect we'll want to put on it. Let's reset the transform. Good. And we'll pull it up a little bit here. We'll want to make it a little thinner. Actually, you know what we need to do? So I need a new 3D object, actually. We'll go where the Light Fury Outpost portal is. Okay, let's try turning that up a little bit. Let me know if this is better. I just went into Streamlabs basically and turned it up to like minus 3.6 decibels. It was down at like minus 9. And okay, so right where the portal is here, I am going to copy the transform component. I'm going to create a new 3D object cube right there, and then what I want to do is actually stick the magic wall under the cube here and stick the Light Fury Outpost portal under the cube. And this cube won't have a renderer or a collider, it'll just be basically the portal holder object here. So we'll go into portal, and then looking at the magic wall, it's a little bit too wide right now. Alright, cool. And so what we want to do is we want to go down to the shape right here, and this is set to basically be 10 wide, so we can just make that 5 wide. In fact, we can probably even make it 4 wide. Actually, that's part of the problem here. Scale 1, 1, 1 maybe. There we go. Alright, so now that's a little better. Now we've got a magic wall. So basically we'll walk down and we'll walk into this, and this is what's going to cause us to teleport. But it looks, now that it's the right size, pretty much, it's got a little bit too much emission, so we can go on the emission and we can cut it down to like half, and there, now it looks a little bit more like sort of a gate that we can walk through. So now we'll actually make the Outpost portal component of it, and that's this one right here. And we're going to add a component, and that's going to be an interactable component. And then we're going to make sure that isTrigger is checked. We're not going to have it glow on mouse over. And that's pretty much all that we need to do. Now we can add another component and add a portal interactable. Basically, the interactable will trigger any interactions, and this portal will be a valid interaction. So the ability name here is going to be teleport light fury outpost instant, and we don't even need really an interactable title there. But I'll put one anyway. We'll just call this teleport, or basically travel to light fury outpost. And we'll just put that up. Actually, we don't need that anywhere else. Okay, perfect. So then what I want to do is I just want to look, I think I have some sample portals, and I just want to make sure that I put all the right components on there. So if we go to portal here and look at one of these portal crystals here, basically, yeah, they've got an interactable and a portal interactable. They also have an inanimate unit, which has been allowing us to click on them, but we don't necessarily need those. To see an example of where we've got other portals that we're walking into that are just triggers, we can actually go to one of our levels like Birch Grove here. So on Birch Grove, it actually has walls on the side that you can run into to teleport, and those are, I believe, under collision here. For example, east exit. So if you look at these, it's got a box collider with a trigger. It's actually the interactable name. That's what's actually controlling it here. Perfect. Okay. So it's actually the interactable name that we want to set for that travel to bit. So we can go back to the Sun Temple here. Double click on the level to load it. Look for the portal here. Go to this portal and set that on the interactable name. Okay, so now this should be able to teleport us there, but we actually have to make the teleport spell. So I'll just look for another teleport spell here. Teleport star instant, and these are the ones we're using for the portals here. So any one is good, so I'll just duplicate teleport Sun Temple instant, and we will call this one to teleport light fury outpost instant. This one up here, we need to change that too, so teleport to light fury outpost instant, and teleport to light fury outpost. And we don't need a resource description, and we don't need any green gravity because this is an instant cast spell. It is usable without learning. That's absolutely correct. We're not using the animation time. The casting time is 0 because it's instant, and it doesn't require any targets. It doesn't need to be added to the bars, and the ability effect name will be teleport light fury outpost effect. So for that, we'll just duplicate the teleport sun temple effect, which is any old teleport effect basically. So this will say teleport light fury outpost effect. Change the name up here to teleport light fury outpost effect. And the level name is light fury outpost. And we can't have any spaces in that because that's basically the zone name. Let's save that, and then we actually need to add the Light Fury Outpost to the build settings, otherwise we won't be able to load it. So we'll double click on Light Fury Outpost here, go to the File menu, go to Build Settings, and add Open Scenes. We'll pull this up here. And that looks good. So now we'll be able to actually load the Light Fury Outpost level. Let's try it out. If I haven't missed anything, we should be able to actually load the game and see that happen. So for that, we'll go to our Load Game Manager. Actually, one thing that I haven't done here is I haven't baked the lighting in this yet, although it looks like we've got real-time lighting in this level. So, you know what? Let's just see what it looks like and see what our frame rates are. So we'll load our Lost Soul Load Game Manager here. Save everything and press play. And we've got some errors in the console, and this is a Unity issue, so I have to switch my layout to AnyRPG, and then it'll work. Alright, we'll go to play, load game, and we'll find somebody who's hanging around in the Sun Temple. We'll load them up. And now we have to exit the Sun Temple. So we'll head out the door here and go find our portal. So to do that, I will hop on the tiger, and the exit is down here. We'll open this door here, and I think we can head around the edge here. No, okay, we can jump off the edge potentially. There we go. Alright, so the wall looks okay. Now I just have to get back up there. Oops, I think I might have actually come down too far and jumped down into an area that I can't get back up from. Yeah, okay, I jumped way too far there. Okay, and there are no stairs here for me to get back up. Yeah, okay. Let's try this again. I'm going to actually have to teleport to the Soul Forge to get back here. Actually, you know what? Or just reload the game because I haven't saved it. Try to be a little bit more careful with the jumping. I need to do some work to the Sun Temple level to make it so there aren't areas where you can get stuck. You can actually fall off the stairs in there as well. So so we'll just jump on the mount now. You can ride this thing inside. I don't have any restrictions on mounting in buildings yet, so click on the door to open it and get out of here. And we'll head all the way down to the bottom here. And then this is where we can properly get over to that bridge. So right here, there's a set of stairs. And here's the bridge. Perfect. Okay, so let's just save the game right here. And we'll walk into the magic wall. Oh yeah, that's perfect. And okay, we got a crash, but that's not bad. There are two audio listeners in the scene. Okay, so what I did is I totally forgot to actually remove the main camera from that scene. So let's go to the Light Fury Outpost. Open up the scene here. And it's got actually a couple of cameras. I'm just gonna, let's save that and reload our game. I might actually have to delete them completely because they have the tag main camera on them. But actually that shouldn't be an issue because I have a reference to my own main camera. I'm not really searching for it by tag. So let's try teleporting again here. We'll walk into our wall. Properly says travel to Light Fury Outpost. And that's a bit of an interesting error there. So what happened here is the level manager failed to get the active scene node. Okay, so I think we've got a little bit of an issue there. So let's look for Light Fury Outpost scene node here. Ah, that's the problem. I'm missing a T there. Okay. Let's save that and load the game again. Alright, so we'll travel to Light Fury Outpost once more, and very cool. So I'm going to turn the desktop audio up a little bit so you can hear that, but we've got this beautiful creepy music playing in the background here. This sand, this dirt actually looks like super bright. This is really cool. It actually kind of does look like it fades away into a desert here. I'm going to have it blocked off so the player can't really go over here, and I'll have to raise up this terrain a little bit. You can see some issues here where we've got some floaty rocks, and actually I've still got some one-sided rocks around here, so I think I'll actually want to remove that as well. And I guess what I'll want to do is I'll actually want to put mesh colliders on all of the other rocks so that we can't fall through them. And we'll want to put mesh colliders on the buildings as well, because you can go inside, but unfortunately with these buildings, all the walls and stuff are one-sided, so they're not actually meant for you to actually go inside. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with it. The mountain perspective actually looks really good. We've got these like hills in the background here. And then like the bigger black mountains way off in the background. Looks like I've got a little bit of a blending issue here. And you can sort of see these rocks here, so we'll want to fix these terrain blends a little bit. And I think I'll want to add a collider on here because it's very likely that this terrain didn't have a collider on it. Lots of these terrains probably don't have great colliders on them, but this is pretty cool. I'm liking it so far. You know, there's a lot of work to be done. Now let's do the quests here, because one of the points about this was it was going to have this really creepy quest in it. So let's go ahead and make the quest chain now. To do that, we'll use the rest of the assets here. So far we've used the mountain terrain, the lighting optimization, we've used the fantasy effect, we've used these photo scan rocks, but we haven't used the miner, the dead tower scene. We did use the music so far, and we did use the ground from the desert environment. So now we'll go in and we'll actually make the quest chain here. So to do that, we'll go into our resources folder and we'll start making the quests. So that'll be under the Lost Soul shared content. So under shared resources, I'm going to add a dialogue first, and this will be a chapter 2 dialogue. We'll just duplicate any old dialogue. And this dialogue will be for the quest called, how about just investigate the Outpost, and we'll call it investigate the Outpost. We'll just start with one dialogue node for now, and this will be referring to the guy that's going to be hanging. So it'll say basically the body of the commander was burned with such an intense heat that it is nearly made of glass. Strangely, nothing around it seems to be burnt. How odd. And then we'll make another dialogue node. Let's see. There are around the outpost, you can spot what appear to be dead guards. Go investigate and try to figure out what happened. I'll go now. Alright, so then we'll make the quest, investigate the outpost, which will launch this dialogue. So under chapter 2 quests, we can just duplicate any old quest here. We'll call this one investigate the outpost. And look for clues. Look for clues around the outpost. All the guards seem to be dead. Look for clues around the outpost. And for now, this one's not going to have any prerequisite conditions, and it will have, let's see, 3 use interactable objectives here. Actually, it's just going to have, let's have dialogue objectives instead. It'll have 3 dialogue objectives, and we'll set the dialogue objectives to a bloody map, a hole in the heart, and a white hand. So now we'll go make those dialogues: a bloody map, a hole in the heart, and a white hand. We'll hit Control D to duplicate any old dialogue here. A bloody map is going to be the first one. We'll call this a bloody map. It'll just have one dialogue node, and the dialogue node will say, beside the dead soldier is a map covered in blood. It appears to show a location in the middle of the nearby desert. And could this be the mana seal? Alright, Control D to duplicate. And we'll call this dialogue a hole in the heart. And name this up here a hole in the heart. The soldier has a hole in his chest where his heart should be. It appears to be singed around the edges as if a very hot object passed through him. And let's see, what could cause such an injury? And then finally, we'll Control D to duplicate again, and this one will say a white hand. And the resource name is a white hand. And the dialogue is basically going to be the dead soldier has been painted with what appears to be a white hand. None of the other soldiers bear this mark, and is this some type of trophy? Okay, that looks good. Now we have all the dialogues. Now we actually have to go put those dialogues on some guys in the scene. So let's jump back into the scene. We'll go to Light Fury Outpost here. Load it up. Go back to our scene view. And now we need to make some dead guards where we can actually get these quests here. So to do that, need to make some units, so we'll go into the units folder where we've got the rest of our units. And I'm going to make a new folder here called chapter 2. So create new folder here and call it chapter 2 because this folder is just getting ridiculously big. And for this one, these guys can actually be inanimate units. So in this case, actually the best thing is probably going to be the Fountain of Time, as it's an inanimate unit that you can basically get a quest from here. I'm going to Control D to duplicate that, and I'm just going to call this new one Dead Guard Unit. We'll take this Dead Guard unit and we'll move it into the characters. It's kind of inanimate, but it's kind of a guard as well, so we'll just make it a unit for now. The interactable name will be Dead Guard, and the interaction panel title will just be Dead Guard. The display name can be Dead Guard. It doesn't have a cutscene interactable, so we can remove that from it. It does have no quest givers, so we can remove that from it. However, it does need a dialogue interactable. And we'll give the dialogues individually. So let's open up this prefab and actually put a dead guard in it. To do that, let's just see if it's called Dead Guard. There's the Dead Guard, perfect. So this Dead Guard is the guard that is in the scene here for the Dead Tower. Let's just take a look at that one real quickly. We can load up the demo scene here. Click F to focus, and you can see this Dead Tower scene has this really cool dead guard down here. So this is the guy that we're going to use right here. Let's just click on him here, and we don't have a prefab for him yet. So what I'll do is I'll just pull the dead guard into the prefabs folder here, and now we've got a nice dead guard that we can use. He doesn't need an animator or anything like that at all, because he's completely inanimate. So now we can go back to the dead guard unit, and actually I want to rename that dead guard to dead guard model. So this one will be named Dead Guard Model. Now we'll open up the Dead Guard unit and pull in the Dead Guard model. We'll set the position to 0, 0, 0. Hit F to focus on him, and he is extremely tiny, it looks like. So we need to set his scale to 111. That looks a little better. Let's remove the animation component from him and apply that to the Dead Guard model prefab. He's got a little bit of an interesting rotation here. If we set it to 0, 0, 0, that looks fine as well. He's also sort of floating up in the air a little bit. He doesn't need a bone structure really at all, although actually he kind of does, because this bone structure is actually what's responsible for taking his skin mesh renderer and making sure it's in the right position. So let's see if I can just go to position 0, 0, 0. I don't know if that will help. No, totally didn't. So what happens if we go to position 0, 0, 0 for the bone structure? Okay, that's a lot better. Because basically his skin mesh renderer is going to follow his bone structure, so it's the bone structure that has to be at 0, 0, 0. Alright, perfect. So now we've got a nice dead guard model, basically, that we can click on. Now, let's make this box a little bit smaller. So this box collider is kind of huge. Also, the scale should be 1, 1, 1. And its size should be like, let's see, 2, 2, 2. And its center should be at 0. So it looks like actually this dead guard model is potentially huge, not small. I don't know what's up with the scale here. I see. So basically this guy has reversed normals, and that's why all the scales are negative stuff. He still looks really huge. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull him into the scene actually to get a sense of perspective. I think that's what I'll have to do here. So we'll go back to the Light Fury Outpost scene. We're not going to save this scene. And then we need to place one of these dead guards against the side of one of these buildings here. So let's see. We'll have maybe one guard sort of in between these two buildings right here. We'll have one guard sitting over beside this building right here, sort of hiding there. And then we'll have one guard like maybe right out in front of this building. So let's just place this one right here. So if we go look at the dead guard unit and pull him into the scene, he is, as I suspected, entirely humongous, like a giant. Let's set his scale to 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. And now he's a little tiny, I think. And also, we don't really want to set the scale on him. We want to set the scale more on the model inside of him. So let's actually open that up, and we'll go down to the dead guard model, and I'll just set the scale 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. And then now he properly fits inside of that like 2-meter box, basically. If we were to stand him up, he would probably be about 2 meters tall, so it looks like now he's got the right scale. So I'll have to take this guy in the scene here and set his scale upward a little bit. And I think that's about right. Okay, good. So we'll create a new empty to store all our dead guards, and this one will be dead guard units. We'll pull the dead guard unit number 1 into there. We will duplicate him, and we'll put the next dead guard sort of behind this building right here. So we'll hit Control Alt F to move him over there. Let's try that again. Middle click, Control Alt F. There we go, that's a little better. We'll lift him up a little bit and then spin him around and then move him back so he's like leaning against the structure there. And then maybe move him down a little bit there. Actually, and we might as well move him over back a little there. Okay, perfect. And then for these barracks here, let's actually select this. All of these things right here have mesh renderers on them, but not mesh colliders. And so we can actually walk inside of them, and we don't really want that. So let me just confirm that none of these things have mesh colliders on them. It doesn't look like it. This one's got a box collider. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? We'll just add them one at a time. So mesh collider, mesh collider, okay, I see. So this is actually this lighting tutorial demo from Unity. It actually uses some of the buildings from the Viking one. So let's actually just click on this building here, so house big, and we'll select that. And okay. Yeah, so we'll add a mesh collider to that, and the big house has a mesh renderer, so we'll add a mesh collider to that. This gate, I think, needs a mesh collider on it. We'll add a mesh collider to the small house as well. And that looks okay. This one over here, this terrain has a mesh renderer, but this also should have a mesh collider. Alright, that's a little better. And these rocks right here have mesh renderers, but they should also all have mesh colliders on them too, so we'll add mesh colliders to all of those. And for this boulder here, it's got a mesh collider on it, so that's good. Alright. So then we'll put our final soldier back over beside, sort of hidden in between these two buildings right here. So I'll middle click on the ground right there, and let's just close all this stuff up. We'll Control D to duplicate a guard unit and hit Control Alt F to move him in here. We'll spin him around, lift him up a little bit, and pull him back so he's kind of leaning against the building, and then just make sure he's not like really floating. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Alright, good. So dead guard unit number 1 gets the dialogue a hole in the heart. Dead guard unit number 2 gets the dialogue. Actually, let me just make sure I'm looking at the right unit here. So we'll go to dead guard unit number 2, hit F to focus. This one will be a white hand. And then this dead guard, oh, okay, I see. Okay, this dead guard over here actually gets a hole in the heart. And it's actually this first dead guard up here gets a bloody map. So we actually need a map now. and that map is in the animated miners cutscene. Got a lot of maps here, so let's actually just go look for the one in the animated miners cutscene. We're going to have a bunch of prefabs in here, and one of them is this rolled map here. I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate that, and to indicate that we're using this, call it AnyRPG rolled map. We'll pull the map into the scene. It's a little big, so we'll set the scale down, maybe like 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. We'll remove the animation component from it here. We'll apply that to the rolled map. Then I want to take this map and rotate it around, because if you look at the top of it, it's got this star on it and it looks a lot more like an actual map. We'll lift it up so it looks more like it's sort of sitting on the ground, and move it over sort of closer to the soldier's hand there. We'll save that, and then finally we want our guy that's hanging. So the guy that's hanging is actually from the Daragachi. So let's go put the Daragachi in the scene. He'll be hanging right in the center of town here. So I'm going to pull that in right here. That looks pretty good. Let's spin that around. And maybe drop that a little bit more. Perfect. Okay, so now we've got our commander who we're going to actually get the quest from. So let's save the scene here, and for the Daragachi, he has this object 1 here, and this object 1 is going to be basically what we're going to end up clicking on here. And object 1 has a box collider, so that's perfect, because that's exactly what we need. We will... Interesting, he has a wind animation. I think maybe he's like hanging in the wind. I'm just going to remove that animation for now, just to make things simpler. And then we're going to need to add a couple of components to this one. We will add an inanimate unit. Let's unpack this prefab here. Object 01 can be called dead commander unit. We will pull that up into the prefabs where we've got the rest of the characters here, even though he's also completely inanimate. And basically, when we're looking at the unit frame, we want to be basically staring in his face, and he's flipped backwards, so we want negative Z, but the actual coordinate is kind of okay. It's pretty much like right beside his head. So for the unit frame camera position, we'll put a Z value of -1. He will have a interactable. We'll apply that to the dead commander unit. And his interactable name will be dead commander. We'll add another component, and that will be a quest giver. And we'll apply that to the dead commander unit. He will give 1 quest, he'll start it, and he'll end it, and the quest name is Investigate the Outpost. next thing, we want to make sure that the dialogues on the dead guards are only available when we're actually on the quest, investigate the outpost. So we'll copy that, and let's see, we can go to the folder where these things are. The prerequisite condition for this dialog is that you have the quest investigate the outpost in your log. A hole in the heart, same thing. Prerequisite condition is that you have the quest investigate the outpost in the log. And finally, a white hand has a single prerequisite condition that you have the quest investigate the outpost in your log. Let's save that. And another thing I'd like to do is basically make the gate out of here as well. So to do that, let's actually make a prefab out of that portal that's in the Sun Temple right now. So we'll go back to the Sun Temple. We'll take the portal here, and under a Lost Soul Prefabs Interactables portal, we'll pull that portal in, and we're going to call this one Magic Wall Portal. And let's open up the prefab, and we'll just change that to portal. We'll just use this basically as a template for making portals. So we'll go back to our scene. So back to the Light Fury Outpost. And then we'll grab that portal, so the Magic Wall portal. We'll pull it into the scene right here. Spin it around a little bit. Bring it back so it's like at the end of the path here. We'll open it up and just look at the magic wall. And I think that's pretty good. Yeah, looks pretty good to me. And then what we'll want to do is we'll just actually unpack this prefab here, and under the portal it'll say travel to the Sun Temple. We'll change that to say travel to the Sun Temple, and this is teleport Sun Temple instant, and the location tag is going to be north entrance. So actually, let me just confirm that that's how we're managing those things. Let's go into Birch Grove. We have teleport Birch Grove instant. Now what I want to do is actually go into Birch Grove here and just take a look here. So under our collision, we have the east exit. Let's hit F to focus on that, and we can see the east exit right here. Actually, the one I want is the south exit because we have the location tags there. So if we look at south cube and south exit, I think, I put it under spawn points, perfect. So we have a south entrance, and it actually is tagged south entrance. Okay, perfect. So what I've done here basically is just make a cube with a tag south entrance on it. So what we'll do is let's actually make prefabs out of these as well. I'm just going to copy these into the Lost Soul. No, I'm not, because you can't make two prefabs at a time. Okay. Actually, let's make a new folder for these. I'll just pull them directly into here for now. South entrance, west entrance, and there is in other scenes north entrances, so we can find that in Windy Plains. If we go into Windy Plains, right, it's actually Squeakendor Plains. There we go. And then we have spawn locations, and we've got this north entrance here. So I'm going to pull that into the prefabs, because the north entrance is what we will be using in the Sun Temple. So we'll go back to the Sun Temple. We'll create a new empty, and we will call it spawn locations. We will reset the transform on it, and then we'll pull default spawn location in. We'll click F to focus on the portal and get ourselves over to it. And then we'll put a spawn location basically like right here. So I'm going to middle click on the ground right there. I'm going to pull in the north entrance under here, and then I'm going to hit Control Alt F, and now our north entrance will place us at the end of the bridge. Actually, let's move it out a little bit. Click there and Control Alt F. Now what we want to do is we want to go back to our portal in the other level and make sure that we can teleport back to here. So we'll go back to the Light Fury Outpost level. We'll grab the Magic Wall portal. We are going to rename this Sun Temple Portal. Open it up, make sure that the portal is using the tag north entrance with no spaces in it. Let's save that, and I think that's worth giving it another try. So we'll go back to our load game manager, press play. Load the game. Load our channeler in the Sun Temple. Alright, we're going to walk through the wall here. We got our creepy music playing. Over here, we have our dead guard. Our dead commander. I'm going to want to basically move this question mark down a little bit. Because it's far too high up. But first, let's just check and make sure that we can actually go back out to the desert. You can barely see the wall here, but it's definitely there. And if we walk into it, we have travel to the Sun Temple. And we properly appear on the correct part of the bridge instead of the main Sun Temple entrance, so that's good. Let's go back to the Light Fury Outpost. And I'm just going to save the game right here. We have the dead commander unit. Let's go open up his prefab here. And by default, the nameplate tag will show at like +2 Y value. So what we actually want to do here is create a new empty. We will call this empty nameplate. We're just going to move it up and put it like right over top of his head right here. Then on the inanimate unit, we will drag down the just a second, nameplate transform to there. And that should bring the transform down properly. His display name should be dead commander. We'll call this dead commander for the interaction panel title. The interactable name also dead commander. Let's save that and press play, and hopefully now he'll have the name dead commander over his head, and the quest question mark should hopefully show up right on top of his head. Okay, that's good. Now we do have one issue with him actually, and let's just go check that out. He's actually playing his own audio, and I don't want him to play his own audio. And that's actually because of the object that he is attached to. So we'll need to go into the Light Fury Outpost scene here and look at the Dargichi, and it's got an audio source, so we just need to remove that audio source from it. Let's save that and go back to our load game manager. Press play. Load up the game. Okay, that's better. So now he's not playing his own music, and we can properly see the dead commander thing above him, and we can click on it, and it's not actually giving us the dialogue, and there's a good reason for that, and that's because I forgot to check that Investigate the Outpost has a dialogue in the first place. So we'll look at the Investigate the Outpost quest, and we have an opening dialogue, and then it'll automatically search for the dialogue with the exact same name. Let's save that and press play again. Okay, much better. So I can see the dead guards around there. I can't interact with them yet, but they have nameplates over their heads. Let's go up and check them out here. Looks pretty good. Got a dead guard there. Yeah, okay, good. So we'll go back to the dead commander here. We'll click on him, and he actually isn't showing up, and that's because of the layer that he's on. So we actually need to go fix that. Let's go back to Outpost. And you know what? Actually, part of this might not even be the layer, it might actually even be his scale. So if we go to the Light Fury Outpost and we look at the Dargichi, it's got a scale of 0.14. That means we need it to be 7.14 times larger. Also, the Dead Commander unit itself has a scale of 0.6. So that's going to affect things as well. So when we have our unit frame camera position coming out at a Z of -1, let's actually set the layer first. We'll set this to character unit. Tell it sure. It can change its children, no problem. And then we're going to apply that. Then for the unit frame camera position offset here, we need to set that to -7.14. And actually, we need to multiply that even further. He's already 0.68, so if we go 1 over 0.68, we need to further multiply this by 1.47. So we'll do times 1.47, and I think that'll give us a correct value for the camera offset, potentially. If it doesn't, then my theory was wrong, but let's go back to the load game manager. And press play. It might have just been the fact that he was on the wrong layer, but we'll find out. Yeah, way better. Okay, so we do have to adjust that based on scale. Now the other thing I noticed here is it's actually pointing sideways, which isn't what we want. So if we look at the Dead Commander unit and open up this prefab here, okay, now his Z value looks like it's forward. But I think this actually, he's rotated, and that might have something to do with it. Yeah, that's why. I need to set local. Okay, so it's actually -y that we need to use, because this yellow axis is the y-axis, basically, and that'll give us his head properly. So we can go back to our scene, the Light Fury Outpost. We'll go into the Dargichi, find the Dead Commander unit, we'll take this -Z, we'll Control X, we'll put it on the Y, we will apply that to the prefab, and save that. And actually, for the dead guards, we should actually do the same thing, because they don't have proper look positions yet. So let's actually open up the dead guard unit. We'll look at the dead guard model and the BIP01. I want to see if we have a head. We have a head, and we have a head nub. it's the head that we're going to want to use, and we'll want to give it a positive y value, likely of 1. So we'll hit F2 to copy that. That's the unit frame target, is BIPO1 head. So we need to set the unit frame target to BIPO1 head, and the dead guard model itself is 0.1, so we're going to have to multiply any value we give by 10. So if we look at his BIPO1 head, we need a y value then of 10, positive y 10, to get the camera in the right spot. So let's do that. We'll go to the dead guard unit here and set a positive y value of 10 for the unit frame target, or for the camera offset. Okay, this looks pretty good. I think we can go back to our load game manager now. Let's save everything and press play. Load up the game. Okay, click on the dead commander, and now we finally see the dead commander staring us in the face, looking very dead. The body of the commander was burned with such an intense heat that it is nearly made of glass. Strangely, nothing around it seems to be burnt. How odd. Around the outpost you can spot what appear to be dead guards. Go investigate and try to figure out what happened. I'll go now. Accept the quest. A bloody map, a hole in the heart, and a white hand. So now we have our dead guard over here. We can, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to move those nameplates a little bit lower here. Let's save the game. Drop out of there. Go down to the dead guard unit. I'm going to create a new empty. I'm going to call it nameplate. I'm going to reset the transform. I'm going to pull it up right above his head, right there. That's where we want his nameplate to be. So now we go under the inanimate unit and we pull this down to the nameplate transform. Let's save that and press play. Okay, good. So we can click on the dead guard. We're looking it up from the bottom. I kind of like that. You know, maybe we should be looking down at him from the top, like 45 degrees. So let's go back to our dead guard unit here. Open up his prefab. If we look at his head here, it's pointing downwards, and we want it basically at like a 45-degree angle up from here. So the camera's at a y value of 1, and we want it at an x of basically -1, or the equivalent of that, but because he has a scale of 10, we will want it at an x value of -10. That should mean that we're staring him a little more straight in the face and kind of down from above. So let's press play. We'll load this up again. click on him. There we go, that's a lot better. So now we're basically like staring sort of straight at him. I'm okay with that. Alright, so the soldier has a hole in his chest where his heart should be. It appears to be singed around the edges as if a very hot object passed through him. What could cause such an injury? Good. We got that objective done. Now we go over and we find some more dead guards. We can talk to this dead guard. The dead soldier has been painted with what appears to be a white hand. None of the other soldiers bear this mark. Is this some type of trophy? And then we go up and talk to the final dead guard. Beside the dead soldier is a map covered in blood. It appears to show a location in the middle of the nearby desert. Could this be the Mana Seal? And we can see the map sitting there with the star on it. This looks really good. Now we can go back to our dead commander, and actually, you know what I want to check? Okay, so I thought I added mesh colliders to these houses here. My guy can still walk through them. That's okay, I'll figure that out later and fix it. And now we can go back to the dead commander, click on him, and we can turn in the quest, and eventually we'll get another quest, and that quest will send us out the side here, and we will head out and we'll put another portal here, and this will actually take us to the Mana Seal, which won't just be a cutscene, but a zone that we can go into. Cool, so I am liking that. Everything is working amazingly. This is a great zone with some great music, and we have some awesome quests in it. I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's good enough for this episode, so I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, as always, don't forget to thumbs up the video, subscribe to the now renamed AnyRPG channel. It's no longer Cohesion, the channel is now AnyRPG, because basically that's all I'm going to focus on this channel. So give it a like, give it a sub, give the video a comment. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time.